Yeah.
Sounds good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Trade the Chain Roundtable series. Everybody's been waiting for, because we have the ever popular Simon Yu, CEO of StormX, ticker STMX. And Simon, first of all, thank you for joining us. You're now superstardom at this point, but we're going to get into that in a little bit. I'm joined by Rob from Digital Asset News, everybody knows and loves, and one of our famous analysts, Pat Ackerman. So both of you guys, thank you for joining us as well. I'm glad we could get the gang all here today. And I will say, I have looked over some of the questions that are about to come over to Simon in this AMA, and they're really good. So I'm really excited. Also, we're going to check out some select questions from the audience as well. So if you have any questions that we're not covering, please drop them in the chat and we'll try to get to them. As well as I'm going to have, Rob is so good at picking questions out of the chat. So Rob, you take a look at the chat too. You're an expert on that. But let's get started with it. I actually, first of all, want to congratulate you for the Portland Trailblazers partnership. And if anybody hasn't, fantastic. If anybody hasn't seen a picture of a Trailblazers jersey with the StormX logo on it, I mean, it's simply amazing. First of all, Simon, can the public buy those anywhere yet?
Next season. So I think like October or November. I'm not sure when because of the COVID scheduling, but it should be available in a few months.
I'm totally going to rock out in one of those. People are going to be like, Alex, take that shirt off. But I know Pat has a couple of questions on that as well. Let's make this around robin if we could. Pat, why don't you start off with pertaining to the NBA, pertaining to sports, some of your questions you had on that, and we'll just go back and forth and bounce it around, but we'll try to extract as much information from Simon as we can here.
Yeah, it sounds good, Alex. Simon, again, great to talk with you. Just a couple of questions to kind of start with. The first thing I think I'll start with, just talk a little bit about the deal. I think you've talked about it here in the last couple of weeks, but how it kind of came together. And did you look at any other avenues in terms of, was it just NBA you looked at, or was there other avenues you looked at for marketing? I'd love to hear you kind of talk about how the deal came together with Portland.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think there's a little bit of bias just because I'm from Portland originally and, grew up in Seattle after that. So, but in terms of marketing and our strategy in general, we really, and the last time I came here, I think we emphasized this as well too. In like 2019, 20, after the bear market, we just put our heads down and we're just focusing on the product, trying to improve our token economics, trying to improve, a lot of the bugs we had, and, back end, there's a lot of work there too, and trying to make the app faster. And in 2021, we're really, focusing on marketing, and sort of mass adoption is the key here, right? So we have a consumer application that really makes sense in terms of like anyone can use it. And most of our user base is non-crypto native, or like first-time crypto users happen to find out about our app from their friends, family members, and then they just shop like they normally would and just earn some crypto, which is awesome. And how could we spread this even further? And sort of the NBA was like the perfect fit for us. And I just kind of tweeted out as kind of like a joke, like one day we'll be a NBA sponsor, jersey patch one day, because there are some like cashback companies that are already doing so. But one of our partners actually connected me with a different NBA team, and then we sort of got that conversation going. And while we're in that process, we started talking to several teams, and coincidentally, like the Blazers also happened to reach out. I don't know how they knew that we were looking for a team, but they had the jersey patch available, and the attitude that they had was just completely different than any other team that we spoke to, just because like they were so open about crypto, mass adoption, and especially what we were doing. And they weren't just asking us for multi-million-dollar check. They were actually trying to work with us in our goals and trying to figure out how they can help. And for everyone from their their CEO to their account managers has just been so open and helpful to us. And that was just it was just the announcement that went out. We actually have a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to execute when the season actually starts, and that's something that we're really excited about.
Yeah.
Very
Hey,
cool.
so real quick. So Simon, so just expanding on that, because they didn't know that you were looking for this. It just kind of just happened. And then all of a sudden the deal just came forward. And how did it all play out? That's my question. Because it wasn't like you guys were actively going, we want Portland, we want to get this done, we want to, throw a bunch of tokens or money or whatever else at them. So how did it just kind of, evolve?
Yeah, so they reached out to us because we're a Pacific Northwest company, we're in tech, and there were some other cashback companies that were already NBA sponsors that are on the traditional side, not on the crypto side too, right? So we just happened to get connected that way, and it just worked out, and we happen to know some of just how the NBA worked in the back end, just because we had talked to teams. I mean, this deal was months in the making. It was like way before we found out even FTX or crypto.com or any of these guys started sponsoring sports, and it proves that we were in the right track, that we had the right mindset. Seeing how all these deals are starting to come together in the recent months as well too. But yeah, the NBA is super interesting as well too, just because our app has a very global user base, and then some of the sports we have gotten outreach from like NFL, MLB, like some other sports as well too. But some of them are very geographically restrained in terms of audience, right? So NFL is just very US based. It's the largest sport in America, but when we're trying to target 150 countries, NBA is just more effective. So that's how we started. But we've definitely been talking to more organizations, players, some other avenues, some interesting stuff that's going to come out. So yeah, like I said, we're just getting started. It's going to be a fun, next few years for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. So just what Simon said. There's some more things coming out, I'm sure, that Simon can't tell us. But that's interesting that all these different places are hawking StormX. So I can see this doing pretty good. All right, that's all I wanted to ask.
Yep.
Back to you, Pat.
Yeah, and one thing I think if you look at the headline, it's the StormX on the jersey, it's on the core, right? It's core marketing. I think in the recent interview, I heard you talk a little bit more about usage. What's behind this deal that maybe helps drive adoption for crypto, and less about maybe trading and things like that, but more in your core of adoption of crypto, use cases for crypto, and how are you leveraging the deal to do that as part of that as well?
Or was it just about the courtside seats?
maybe no. I'll try to make as many games as I can, but it's still pretty far. But yeah, it's the mass adoption part is really interesting. Yeah, I mean, we made a big buzz about being the first crypto company as a Jersey patch partner and all this stuff, but I really do think our app is unique because there's so many different use cases for crypto and blockchain outside of speculation, but 99.9% of the world doesn't know that. They just immediately think when you hear Bitcoin or blockchain or crypto, you think of Bitcoin or Dogecoin or like the price went up, price went down, etc. But our goal and mission has just been like, how can we put more money into users' pockets and just do everyday activities? And then through these partnerships, that messaging is what's going to be highlighted. And so like, hey, there's more to crypto than just speculation. You can use it for everyday activities. You can accrue it, and there's a lot more that you can do. You can spend it, as our debit card rolls out around a similar time as well too. And there's just so much more that you can accomplish there.
So with that being said, you just mentioned some keywords that are being thrown around the live chat and that people are actually extremely excited to see, and that's the debit card. Can you give us when this is going to launch? What is it going to be? US only? Is it going to be globally? Can you give us some idea around the program?
Yeah, in terms of regions, it'll launch in US first, and then it'll expand to Canada and Europe. Probably before the end of the year. The holdup has been mostly through our banking partners. Unfortunately, we're used to startups in crypto just working, very long hours and just getting stuff done faster. But traditional organizations aren't as quick as we are, so it just takes a long time. So we're just waiting on our partners for that launch. But yeah, we're working with some really big partners, and right now our store offerings for the app is like 700 or 800 globally, but then this adds another 15,000 stores, and like it's from like, you know, very top wholesalers, like, you know, just coffee shops, like restaurants, a lot of the ones that we don't cover, like gas stations and stuff too, which a lot of people have been asking for. And so this will be a really great use case. And yeah, the cashback, I mean, we're basically leveraging all the relationships we have with commerce brands to make a debit card that just gives ridiculously high cashback. And that's our focus here. And with the token model, we can expand on that further, because it's not just the cashback that's offered, you know, pretty much at any other card holders, but if you're a token holder, you can get much, much higher cashback, and the token becomes more useful that way as well too.
Okay, interesting. Rob?
No, I mean, look, I guess the only question I was thinking of as Simon was talking was about the banks, and then getting all, you know, together, and they move very slow because we know that the banks are not innovators. That's not their job. But Simon, with all the things that we've seen lately, as far as like the banks kind of hindering the process of crypto, have you guys seen a little bit of resistance from the banks that you have reached out to get that debit card, or has it been smooth sailing, just that they're very slow?
Yeah, no, it's been very smooth. You know, I think public facing, there's a lot of banks that are saying, you know, anti-crypto, blah, 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 all this stuff. But behind the scenes, they're working on it because they don't want to lose market share, right? You look at who owns the most blockchain patents in America, it's Bank of America. It's no one else. It's just, and they haven't really done much yet. And they're trying to hire a blockchain team, I think, but they're just trying to own the market share. And they're definitely behind. I mean, you guys saw the Visa news that came out too, like this week, and that's a huge deal. And you know, Visa, I mean, crypto is going to disrupt Visa and MasterCard's model, but they're already in it. You know, they're probably just going to start acquiring companies left and right, and to try to dominate this space before, you know, the other card providers are going to do it. But from what I'm aware of, definitely Visa, MasterCard, and American Express are definitely looking into the space very aggressively. And yeah, I mean, it was just kind of amazing. You know, I've been building this company for like almost 7 years now, and never we would have imagined, you know, talking to these big players and getting deals like this back then, and now, you know, how smooth it is. It's great to see, and the adoption is definitely coming, but we're still early.
See, this is great information, because like on all the different sites, and even YouTube and Twitter, the big stories that you hear about is that the banks are suppressing, the banks are the ones that are like really pushing things down. But in actuality, it's just a very small, you know, number. I think the majority, just like what Simon said, is like, look, we're losing on a market share. We need to get in this game before we get blockbustered. And that makes total sense to me. So I think these are the kind of narratives we should really focus on, that the positivity of what's happening with cryptocurrency. And I'm glad that Simon was here, because he's got firsthand knowledge. So thanks, Simon, for kind of like putting it in. I'm going to talk about that today on the show. Yeah, because I mean, I'm so sick of all these like negative, which is what really sells. But really, what's really going on is a lot different.
Yeah. And one of the things I just want to explain to folks who aren't familiar with what Simon alluded to with the Visa news that came out this week, we covered it on yesterday's show, is that Visa just released that $1 billion was spent with the crypto debit card program over since January, I believe the first 6 months of the year, if I'm not mistaken. And the people that are currently rolling out programs, you know, that they mentioned, some others, whether it be StormX, whether it be Voyager, whether it's they have a deal with BlockFi, they Gemini. So I mean, this is gaining massive ground. We discussed some other stuff like tax implications, but we'll leave that for a later date. But this is really actually gaining traction. Whereas 2 years ago, when I first heard of CRO's debit card from crypto.com, I was like, who's going to use that? But now everybody's using it. $1 billion in the first half of the year.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff.
Cool.
Well, hey, Pat, let's go over to you. I know that, you know, with purchases from StormX, there is, you know, people enjoy, they love the cash back that you get in crypto. People bring up the free Adidas example all the time, which is actually really cool. But let's talk about staking. Pat, I know you got some cues on that. If we could kind of delve into how that program's shaping up.
Yeah, so just a couple of questions, Simon, around just the StormX token and utility and staking and things like that. First one is recent news. You guys have lowered your staking percent from 12.5 down to 10%. I think it's kind of come down over the months and years that you've kind of had it in place. Talk a little bit about that, the reason for that, and is there a floor at some point where you see it to stabilize and see kind of consistency of that staking percent?
Yeah, so this is a question that comes up a lot, and originally we had it set at 50%, and we told people, when we launched staking, that it's going to continue increasing over time. And so in the beginning, the rates are high as for user acquisition, right? So we're trying to get more people to sign up as members, because what staking allows you to do is allows you to automatically become a rewards member, which you get, bonuses on cashback. And that's what we're trying to push towards more adoption. And we've seen that continuing to grow, whether what happens with crypto, Bitcoin, even going down like 50% over the last few months. Our staking members, reward members have continued growing, or we're at all-time high like every single day. And this will decrease over time. And we just launched governance a few days ago for at least the version 1, so where people can vote on certain product issues and things like that. Because we have a fixed supply of tokens, the extra reserves from the staking are coming from our treasury, right? And that's just causing inflation, but ultimately that balance is going to run out. So for that reason, we have to continue decreasing it. But there's other ways to, vote on, like, can we keep the rates competitive, or it depends on what the users and community want, right? So a couple of like knobs that we can do is like right now we're paying out once a week, but if we do it like once a month, and if you forget that, then if you withdraw before that happens, you don't get that month staking rewards. We can use that to increase the percentage. There's other knobs that we can push. Like right now it's a fixed supply token, but do you guys want an inflationary model as well too? Like in terms of like switching that model as well too. But it's no longer a centralized decision that the company is going to make, but it's the community, depending on, okay, what are the objectives? How do people think that this is going to actually help the long-term adoption? And then let the people in the community vote rather than us single-handedly deciding that. So it's pretty exciting. We have a lot of stuff coming out for governance, and it'll continue evolving. We try to make the user experiences, as smooth as possible right now, where it's pretty easy to vote. You just have to log into your account and you just press yes or no. We just ran our first proposal with the token swap, which last year I think a few hundred people missed, and trying to reopen that. But yeah, a lot more coming for sure.
Interesting. And just Pat, I'm sorry to interrupt real quick. I just want to let people know. Some, ask, why do APYs come down, and various other rewards? And the simple thing is because there's a fixed supply, right? And so although, a company like StormX may have a larger fixed supply than some others, that's because they do offer rewards where other tokens are not in that game. So they don't need a certain number of fixed supply. But in the end, the fixed supply will end. You can burn through it. So you need to have an inflationary decrease when it comes to this, because otherwise everybody would complain that it's available for minting perpetually. So there's two sides of the coin, and you have to pick one. Sorry, Pat, go ahead.
No, it's good. And I think, you talk about the governance model a little bit there, Simon, and I think that's really, really key. Can you talk a little bit more in depth about that? So is that really literally just a question or a product launch or decision to be always just put out to the community members, or how does that work, or how will that work in your strategy as a company?
Yeah, so there's a couple details I can't explain yet, but yeah, so our first proposal went out. I would highly suggest people to continue voting, and then there will be some rewards that might come out later, but just the purpose is to really get to the ethos of blockchain, which I think there's a lot of advantages to why we're a different cashback application than some of the competitors, whether it's in the fiat or crypto space. But really having a decentralized decision making, I think, is something that's new, right? I mean, like Amazon or Microsoft, you can't get, like these large companies to do something like this. And we're really being innovators in this. Like how do we get 1 million people that's using the application to vote on certain things that happen? Like this is going to be an interesting experiment where, people that vote, it's just like, hey, I helped this decision, go through. Like I helped make this decision, and they become more power users of the application too, and they become more supportive. And I think us being really transparent and deciding on things like this and opening it up more to the community is one of the reasons we have very strong, fans and support of the project.
And I apologize. I keep wanting to explain to the folks watching, everything, because we always talk about it, thinking everybody knows. But when it comes to governance, and there's different levels of StormX that you achieve. And so what governance does is allow, to what Simon mentioned, the input of the holders and stuff like that. And that's to change the governance of the token. So, I see some people in the chat going, can't wait for Alex to bust out his $1 prediction. Obviously, everybody knows that's how I feel. And that's based on a lot of data that I put through my little brain. And Rob has at least a minimum 50-cent prediction, but I'll let him dig into that. But what happens when StormX goes to that level, right? Then all of a sudden those levels of different tiers become almost unattainable to some. And so governance kicks in, and that governance sometimes is allowed to change those tiers. So that way will cost you $300 to be like silver or gold. And I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm just throwing it out there. Could become $10,000 depending on price action, but governance keeps it even keeled. So just wanted to throw that in. All right, who's next in the fire? Come on, Pat, keep them coming. I saw your questions, man.
Pat's got a lot of questions. I'm gonna let him go.
I'll do a couple more here, and then Rob, you can ask a couple of follow-ups here. You talk about decentralization. Do you always see staking as a decentralized activity, or do you see that coming to maybe some of these exchanges, or even like a Voyager, as the ability to stake through those platforms, or do you think it's always going to be decentralized?
So I mean, it's all about user experience, right? And I got to meet Steve in Miami, and he had expressed interest that he wanted to make StormX, staking happen on Voyager. Try to figure out exactly how that's done, because our, staking is just very different from a lot of the other staking protocols, because it's not just like an interest with more tokens. There's an actual use case as to becoming rewards members on the store. And then, the reason we picked the decentralized route was like, we want users to hold their own custody, but people wanted, hold it in Voyager because they trust it, and, it's more convenient for them. Like, we definitely want to do that, but it just takes more integration back and forth. So yeah, I mean, we're trying to figure that out, and it's all about choice, right? So we don't want to be custody holders of people's tokens or crypto. We want the users to hold their own custody, but we want more choices for sure. Whether the user wants to keep it in their own wallet or Voyager, and those are something that we're looking into right now.
Awesome. So Steve, if you're listening, staking with StormX on Voyager, I'm just putting it out there. Let's make it happen. That's great. And I think, to your point, everything I'm hearing you talk about, Simon, is governance, community impact, customer experience. It's all of those kinds of things, which is really about what do the customer want? What's the experience they want? What's built to that? That's what I keep hearing you talk about. And I think that's a great way. And the reason why you've been around 7 years, you're going to be around much longer than that, because you're trying to build to what the customer wants, which is awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So when it comes to, all right, first of all, Rob, I want to go to real quickly, and I don't like to bring this up, Simon. You don't have to. I don't want you to be involved in this discussion anyway, because it has to do with price prediction. But Rob, you recently, I don't ever like to put founders in that position. Rob, you recently did a portfolio prediction. Come on, let's know. The audience always loves to hear that stuff. Of 50 cents to $1 was the spread. Now, in your mind, from a product, from a marketplace, What is your justification for that, your reasoning behind it? And I know you mentioned a big box retailer as well and a relationship there, but give us some insight from the average Joe and what they should be looking for.
No, you know what? I mean, this is the same thing we talk about all the time on the channel, which is, first of all, not investment advice. This is just investment opinion. And when I take a look at projects, it's always the same thing. Like, who's the team behind it? What are they doing? And does it have real world utility? And like a lot of the things that are out there, Simon even alluded to it. Like, there's no utility. It just doesn't. It's just all about price. Like, all the price went up, so maybe I should buy it. All the price went down, so I should sell it. And if you're going to do that, you are going to get burned a lot of the times because things fluctuate so heavily. So I always just look at like, what is a long-term effect? And what I see is a lot of people, they like to make money and they like to actually get a little bit of cash back. So if I have a product that's been around for, Simon, I'm going to say, is it 7 years? Jeez.
The cashback app has been, well, the cashback side has been a little over a year, but the app itself has been around.
I mean, that is crazy. That is a crazy amount of time to be around. And then all the different partnerships that are coming about. So like when here's a secret for everybody. I only invest in things that I like to use and I believe in. So like I have a problem sometimes with like memory, and as I get older, things just slip. So I'm always looking for this product called On It, and they have these great products, Joe Rogan type of thing. And guess who's got On It? Well, StormX does. So I'm like, well, shoot, if I'm going to buy this expensive stuff, I want some crypto back. And of course, that's what I do. So I'm like, this is a pretty good app. And then I look at them like, well, where are things going? Where are all the different partnerships? And I take a look at, are they actually trying to do things? And it's not just about, how great the product is. That's just one part. But are they actually doing marketing, and are they actually pushing out there? Because it's like that restaurant down the street that nobody knows about. It doesn't matter how great it is unless people know how good it is. So I take a look at all those things. I'm like, well, the all-time high for this year was, I want to say, was it 18 cents, 20 cents, somewhere around there? Am I wrong? For StormX?
10 cents.
10 cents. Okay, sure. So I was like, well, if it can go 10 cents, then why couldn't it go to 25 cents? Especially with all the partnerships that are going, and especially with all the different things as far as like the marketing and things that are moving forward. So I thought, well, if I can do that, how about 50 cents? A little bit crazy, but I think people don't know enough about it yet. But once they do, and they start to figure it out, I can see where it can actually happen. And that's why I made that price prediction. So just one of those things that I use and I believe in. That's about it.
I want to jump over to NFTs. The NFT marketplace came out with a bang in Q1. I mean, it was rip roaring, and people, Rob even went and created an NFT. That's how rip roaring it was. I think someone bid up to $250 on that.
King of the Shill.
Wow.
King of the Shill. It was me like this, and it was a title that said King of the Shill, and I was like, wow.
It was probably a family member that bid on it, but
thanks, Mom.
But you guys are entering this space, and you're entering it. It's a crowded space now, slightly crowded, right? But you guys have a little leg up. You're deep players in crypto, whereas there's Gary V, who's a social media influencer who launched his crypto marketplace, and I don't know how much traction that's possibly getting. But talk to us about your NFT front and what your plans are going into that market space, and personally where you see NFTs.
Yeah, just talking about NFTs in general. I think it's a fascinating use case because when we look at art, like the physical art, right? There's two reasons as to why someone would buy a Picasso. It's just one is they want to show everyone that they own a Picasso, and then two is they want to maintain the value of it, right? But if you look at art in general, like 99% of the artists are starving. There's only actually like 1% that's actually meaningful, at least from a value perspective. But I view that the same way for NFTs as well too. I think the 1% is like certain memories or like history or certain artists that are really popular, and then 99% is virtually worthless kind of thing. But but because there was a bubble, like everything was oversaturated, right? Like some of the influencers that were not involved in crypto is very questionable, and like how, they launch NFTs and stuff like that too. But I mean, there's definitely value there. It was overinflated, but it's coming back down, and I do think in the long term it will survive. What we're doing with Select, who used to be a pro StarCraft 2 player, was he created the subsun emoji, which is the shrug, and like everyone uses it, but the one thing that he always felt bad about was like he never got the credit. And that's what we're doing on the blockchain, which is like, okay, he's going to be permanently remembered for these 500 limited cards that come out, and the people that buy it are going to have proof that it came from the original creator too. So it's a piece of like meme history, which is pretty awesome. Like I know people have been buying like Disaster Girl and some of these Charlie bit my finger baby video and stuff like that too, which seems kind of ridiculous, and it's like $700,000, but in the world of 2021, that's our history. It could be worth as much as like I don't know, maybe this is too far, but like Anne Frank's diary kind of thing. It's a piece of memorabilia, right? And that's the important part, is like to own that piece where it's very exclusive, which could go into like a museum, like that's really special. And if you do want to print it out physically, you can get like digital frames, and you can put that on there, and then you can also put that, but then on the blockchain, if anyone else tried to do that, it's just kind of like, oh, you want a fake piece of art, anyone can take a picture of Mona Lisa, and you can also do that as well too, right? But it's like you own the actual piece, so there's definitely value to it. And I mean, this is an experiment for us as well too, because one, we just wanted to help Kevin live his vision in terms of the recognition that he deserves, but the reverse auction style with that was interesting too, because from a value perspective as well too, it's sort of combining NBA Top Shot with the low serial numbers, but using Unisoc's bonding curve, and having that model, which we thought was interesting. And if this goes well, there's some big name partners that we're planning on working with as well too, and trying to replicate some of the success. So
there's a whole basketball team up in the Northwest that you have access to.
Yeah. Hey, Simon, real quick, I don't know if I missed it, but you were talking about serial numbers and things like that as far as like the NFTs. Were you talking about as far as like forgeries and things like that? Because I mean, NFTs, when I think of NFTs, and a lot of people, it's just art, right? But then there's a lot of real world use cases. We can, take a look at like deeds and titles and things like that. And also for like tracking. Is there any kind of plan like that for your NFTs for that part of it?
Yeah, no, not yet. The serial numbers I was referring to was the shrug emoji. We have 500 of them, and so the first one that's being sold is number 500, and then the last one is serial number 1, which is the most rare. But I mean, to your point though, I mean, it doesn't have to be labeled NFTs, but I think like even in 2017, 18, there were a lot of these projects that were like halal chain and like trying to figure out counterfeit
yes.
And there's all these different use cases, and like voting, I mean, I still think is like a huge use case that still hasn't been solved, just because there's so much voter fraud,
right?
And there's huge questions on whether the U.S. presidential election is rigged every year, and I definitely think there's a lot of truth in that.
What?
Like not all of it, but I mean, not all of it. I mean, but there's definitely fake votes coming in. So how could we make this better and solve this? And I think blockchain is a good solution for that. I know Korea has implemented blockchain solution for voting already. So it's a matter of time until we just improve the technology, right?
Yeah, I just thought I was just thinking about NFTs and like how it all works with you guys, and as far as like getting the actual authenticity. Because if you have that part of it, it'll be like another switch, another type of service. But it's just something off the top.
I think maybe I think there should be some cool founders NFTs. Like somebody bids on an NFT and they open it up and it's an experience, right? It's not a piece of art. Maybe it is, I don't know, but it's an experience. So if you unlock it, it's like you get to fly out to San Francisco and get a burrito at a taco truck with Simon, something like that. Like that's cool stuff,
Yeah, there was a DJ that did that. I think Delphi Digital was talking about that, and they had booked him for like some private DJ event because of this, and it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, heard he ended up playing like a 6-year-old's birthday party, but it's
Yeah.
all right. Pat, throwing it back over to you. I want you to ask some questions on listing expansions and so forth.
Yeah, sure. There's been a lot of expansion just in where StormX is available to be traded or bought or whatnot. And so how do you see that kind of benefiting your strategy as a company? And why do you see that kind of as an important piece of that?
I mean, we're not like proactively going after exchanges. I mean, the exchanges help in terms of adding utility to the product too, right? It's like how can people buy the tokens to upgrade their membership? And so there's certain regions and certain platforms where that's really helpful. I mean, at the end of the day, I always keep telling this to our audience as well too. Like I don't want speculators to come to our channel. Like if you want to speculate on a coin, like please go bother some other token project, because if the price dips and everyone's going to complain and don't know why, like it's really frustrating to have to deal with in the first place. But I mean, what really makes us different is like, hey, look, like there is a fixed supply, and we're just getting more people signed up for the app because it's useful, and eventually the StormX membership is going to be like as valuable as like an American Express Black Card, where the top tier members just get access to like all these different stores across the world. I mean, even right now as a Diamond member, you get 25% off all hotels using Agoda. Like I just booked a pretty nice hotel for 4th of July weekend, and like it was much cheaper because of this. And it's not just
25% off hotels on as a Diamond member.
Yeah, so Agoda offers 7% base, and so if you're a Diamond member, it's 250% multiplication or multiplied, so 24.5%. So like that's just only one benefit, right? So I mean, like you said, there's Adidas, Nike, eBay, and so many different stores, and we're seeing like some commercial activities, some large like what do you call it, drop shippers and stuff like that, using our signing up for rewards members so they can buy stuff on AliExpress, and there's more and more use cases. But it again comes to adoption. Right now we have about 90-something thousand rewards members, but our goal is to try to hit 1 million this time next year, and then it just requires that many more tokens to be used, and then people can actually spend it going forward as well too with the debit card, and it's just we're creating a whole ecosystem out of it, which is pretty exciting.
You keep spitting out numbers like that, and let me just tell you something. There's a gentleman sitting in front of a fireplace on this panel right here that is absorbing all those numbers, because that's what he does for a living. And he's going to form calculations on growth scale and everything else. So you're just heading in the right direction. I'm going to change this topic real quick to want to hear your thoughts on something that is out in the news this week, and that has to do with Senator Warren. I'm sure you're familiar with that woman from Washington, and who wrote a letter to Gary Gensler for wanting regulation clarity. And correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, it wasn't just a letter. It was a letter asking for an expeditious result in clarity in crypto.
Yeah.
And when I read the news article first, I felt almost like, wow, somebody's rushing something. But Simon, what are your opinions on that? Do you think it's good for the industry? It's bad for the industry? Indifferent? Do you think it's FUD? What's your thoughts?
The core problem with U.S. regulators is we have too many entities trying to control this, right? So we have the CFTC, the SEC, the IRS, like everyone's treating it differently. Is it a property? Is it a security? Is it a commodity? The government entities need to combine. And I think the best way is to just create a separate entity just for crypto. Like that would probably make the most sense, because it's not.
Oh,
Hello?
No,
yeah.
one more time. Okay, you said after you said it's not.
I think Simon's asking for an SRO, like a FINRA or something, a crypto specific.
Yeah, so I was just trying to say, right now we have like FINRA, FinCEN, SEC, IRS. Like it's a property, it's a commodity, it's a security. There's too many different entities that are trying to classify it as their own thing, and that's the issue. We need a new entity, I think, because crypto is a new asset class to really organize this. And then that's the best way to try to efficiently regulate this, right? And then I think that's the best way forward. I don't think the SEC is going to have solutions because they're going to have jurisdiction problems and issues that other government entities are going to have issues with as well too. So it's just going to be this constant back and forth. As crypto companies, it's really tough to start a business here because like how do you comply with rules that haven't been set yet, and everyone's trying to guess where the rules are going to head, and it's just all it ends up doing is just put more money into lawyers' pockets, right? So you just spend a ton of money on legal bills, which should be actually spent on developing technology. I mean, in the long term, regulation is good. Short term, I'm sure there'll be FUD, but there is a certain amount, and this is the reason I hated meme coins in the first place, is because like there's so many pump and dump activities that's happening, right? And it's very clear. Like yesterday, I saw a video. Like even Stanley from The Office was like promoting his own coin, but the way he talked about it was clearly security. He's like, the token's going to go up because there's a fixed supply, and then it's going to keep getting burned, like, and then the price is going to keep going up. I'm like, holy dude, you need a lawyer ASAP, like, and he's like, this is a utility token. It's like, that's clearly not a utility token. But I mean, as more people get burned from all these meme coins that have no utility, and like some people are like, oh, it's okay, I can just buy and get out, and so I'll be fine, and it's people's own responsibility. But as people get burned, right, that's when regulators step in and they over-regulate everything, and then it makes everything hard for everyone else. And this is what we saw in 2018. We saw lots of scams and ICOs, and then pretty much every ICO was shut down, and then like and for anyone operating in crypto, it was so much more difficult. And we are going to see that just because there's been so many exit scams and rug pulls. And although we might laugh about it on crypto Twitter, it's a very serious concern if someone lost all their life savings, et cetera, on a scam. And the surprising thing is a lot of these scams are coming out of the US. So I'm actually very surprised some of these guys haven't been caught yet. Like you saw like some phase, like the esports guys, they were there's a CoffeeZilla YouTuber like did some really in-depth analysis, but there's some really sketchy stuff that happened. Like it's like some of these top influencers are now showing really bad projects, which I get a lot of criticism because I shit on a lot of like really bad projects and stuff like that, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't target that you shouldn't say anything negative about a different project, just focus on your own, right? But what it does is all these bad projects, if people put money into it and support it, then it makes them want to do another project and keep replicating it. And more of these projects just keep coming up again and again. So if you put money into, even if you gain money or lost money, you don't care, it's still bad. I never want to get involved with a lot of these like Binance chain coins and stuff that just appear out of nowhere. It's because like, yes, I could probably make money, but if I support it and these scammers end up, cashing out $500,000, and then they're going to close that project, redo that, and then the regulators will step in and, really hurt this industry overall. It's a terrible thing to do. And I really hope the community and, just people in general stop supporting scams, because there are good projects out there, but it's going to lead to a very bad ending for a lot of legit projects and just the whole industry in general.
That was Simon being a lobbyist on the Hill just now. So maybe Washington should invite you to talk about that for clarity reasons. Pat, your fans in the chat are begging for you to ask a question. They say you're being too silent. Do you have anything else for us here? Anything at all for people to grab onto for analysis?
I don't have a ton for analysis other than you already mentioned there's 90,000 current token holders that are trying to target 1 million in a year, and I can tell you 90,000 to 1 million is a big increase. Even if it's 500,000, let's say they miss it by half, or they get 750,000. That's a huge increase on a fixed supply chain that with governance coming into place and all those kind of things. So from an analysis standpoint, those are the kind of things that I look at and focus on. Again, because we're all here from an investment standpoint, and that matters. But also as part of that, you get in on the early early stage of this where you could be maybe a diamond member or gold member where you couldn't be down the line, and then get that cash back rewards now through hotels or various purchases with Adidas clothes, things like that. So I think that's what matters from an analysis standpoint. I think that's the way I look at it.
Awesome. Yeah, and first of all,
I do have another question. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I do have one more question. Can I ask one more question?
You can, Pat,
just one more question.
You can ask as many questions you want.
Okay, good. It's been a while since I've been on, Alex, so it's I'm a little rusty. Sorry. So Simon, I do have a question real quick. It was actually a question from one of my Twitter followers, and they asked about your targets. Really, a lot of it's been bigger retailers. Is there any kind of strategy to help small businesses that want to offer crypto cash back as part of the platform that StormX is offering? Is that something that you think can be serviced longer term?
Yeah, so I think that's where the debit card partnership will help. It should make, there's a lot of local restaurants and stuff like that as well too, which should be easier to onboard than our current one, just because it does require API and like a tech team. And one of the really frustrating things that we have to deal with on a daily basis is sometimes the conversions don't work right away, and then we have to like manually credit and look at the transactions and stuff like that. It's because even the large companies, they're not tech companies, right? So like these like large retailers are worth multi-billion dollars that you think of. Like they have like 2 people on their dev team, and it's really frustrating sometimes because things break and they don't know how to fix it, or it takes a really long time because it's not on the priority. And if you can't even get these like multi-billion dollar companies to try to fix issues that might be occurring, like how are you going to get a small restaurant to do this? But there is a solution that we're working on. Hopefully with the debit card, the onboarding will be a lot easier. So
and to recap
awesome.
that,
I think that would help from a growth standpoint.
And to recap that, it's coming out. You're looking for US first rollout, followed by other regions, but beginning this year.
Yeah.
You can keep going, Pat.
Can you share anything around, it's been a few months since you've been on, and we had some good questions here a few months ago. In the last couple of months, have you seen the number of retailers grow or the number of transactions grow? Or do you think it's really slowed down with the kind of broader market sell-off overall? Is there any correlation there at all?
I mean, in terms of growth, there has been a little slowdown in terms of like when Bitcoin started falling. But I mean, every month we've had a record high in terms of like transactions and more users and reward members and all this stuff. Like so, everything has been trickling up. And again, this is like purely word of mouth. We only started being aggressive on marketing, starting with trailblazers and stuff like that. But we have a lot more mainstream stuff coming, and then so regardless of what happens to Bitcoin price or just the crypto industry in general, like there is a plus side for us when the price goes down, because it's like the crypto is tied to it's pegged to the fiat, right? So you accumulate more coins. So like if Bitcoin's like half of what it was, you actually accrue twice as many Bitcoins by using your application when it's cheaper. And then coincidentally, if it goes up too, makes you feel happier as well too. So but right now is a great time to use the app, and some of the smarter people are definitely taking advantage of it. They're buying more stuff than you need to, or like getting ready for Christmas early.
Good idea.
Do you think that the slowdown in the overall market and prices, things like, does that give you some breathing room to build and execute on your strategy more, or versus maybe 3 or 4 months ago when you were getting hammered with new signups and issues and so many people coming through the funnel? Does that help, at least in the short term?
It doesn't really matter. I mean, because I mean, there's always a lot of FUD like happens whether the price is going up or down. It's just we choose to ignore it for the most case. Like, I mean, 2018 was a lot more worse. Received death threats and stuff like that too. But it's just we have to just focus on the product, and on the token side too. It's just as long as there's more adoption. So we're focusing on the product itself. We're working on governance. We're working on more stores. A different product with debit card coming out, more marketing, some really big deals, and like just we know which switches we have to start turning on, and we're just working on it regardless of what happens. And then eventually, Bitcoin's going to come back, and that's when we'll just see an exponential increase in terms of users and adoption and everything. So
Awesome. What has been, you don't have to answer this if you can't, but what's been kind of your growth rate again in terms of transactions, users, things like that? Has it been 5%, 10%, 20%? Has it been higher than that? I'd just be curious on average, what have you kind of seen the last couple of months or even throughout the year?
Yeah, from like a month over month, yeah, we've seen like 50 to like 200% growth, like yeah, especially this year for most of that. So it's been pretty awesome. Yeah, we've been growing very, very quickly. And then it's also one of the reasons, we got fundraising from some strategic partners we didn't need to raise, which was the best part. We really raised from people that actually understood our overall vision rather than having to be desperate and sucking up to VCs and stuff like that. So we got some really great partners that are helping us open up their doors, and and just being very strategic right now, and we have a lot of breathing room. So
awesome. And just again, Alex, one last question here. You mentioned the outside investment. Has there been another round of outside investment here recently you just haven't announced yet? Is that what you're alluding to, or is that from prior announcement you gave?
So we do have one other strategic investor that we'll make an announcement probably next week or two. Yeah.
I told you when Pat gets warmed up, the heat gets going here.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Did you hear that, team? 50% to 200% growth. I mean, again, but that's on par with what we've seen at a lot of other companies. Like a Voyager, month-to-month growth has been kind of like that. We've seen that with Celsius and a lot of other ones as well. So again, they're more trading side of things, but again, adoption throughout. I think we probably, to your point, we've probably seen some slowdown maybe here just recently in those percentage growth. But I think, again, adoption is continuing to happen even with some of the recent price changes to the downside. So.
Yeah, and one of the, a couple of things that I'm curious about is Simon, what is the let's say the sweet spot demographic for StormX from a geographic and age standpoint? What would you say that is?
Yeah, right now, number one is US, number two is Korea, I think 3 or 4 are like UK and Netherlands, and it's pretty spread across. Number 5 is like Indonesia, and we're pretty global, which is I think the really interesting part. But
the Netherlands love you. The Netherlands love you.
Yeah, the Dutch guys love us. Yeah, we've been adding a lot of stores there because of that as well too, which is pretty awesome. And our head of customer success lives in the Netherlands too, and he's very excited about a project. And he's a great guy, and he's a great leader for that region, I think.
Now, the last time we had you on, or a couple of times ago, when StormX went through the app revamp, I think it was about 1.5 years ago now, somewhere around there. You had mentioned there was 400,000 new users downloads of that app from that revamp period. Do you have a new number, revised number for us now that we're 6 months into the year, or are you waiting to disclose that?
That's a good question. We could probably look that up and let you guys know. Yeah, that is a great question.
I was just pretending to be Pat Ackerman for a minute.
Well, and I would say those numbers are awesome because they're helpful to understand your growth in context, right? Outside of seeing some of the partnership deals and some of the things you talk about in your AMAs, it's really helpful to understand what is the growth and what are we seeing for adoption. It just helps the community and the owners really understand how you're progressing throughout the year. So, yeah,
for sure. Yeah, just a lot's been going on. And that's a metric I forgot to keep track of, unfortunately. Yeah.
Let me know, Simon. We can sit down and we can talk about metrics. I can give you lots of ideas. No.
Okay, awesome.
Rob, what do you got for us? Anything? Or are you ready to go for a swim there?
No, I've already done the swim. No, I was just thinking about what Simon, what you said before, because I know your whole thing is just focus on utility. But I think I get it now about why you do it so much. I mean, first of all, it's a good practice, but what you said, in 2018, when everything crashed down, and then death threats, because I think in the past, and this is one of those things about walking the line, about price predictions and where things are going. People love you when everything goes up, right? They're like, this is the best thing of all time. This went to a dime or 15 cents. And then what people fail to realize is that we're in this crazy market where it's going to fluctuate. But the reason why we're here is to talk about where things are going with StormX and all the partnerships and where things will lead to. So everybody out there, as you're listening to this, it's a good point that, I mean, it doesn't matter where we are now. It's where we're going to go out in the future. And I think that with what Simon here is doing and the marketing and things like that, I think it's a bright future, but it's going to take some time. And I know everybody wants it now, but it doesn't happen like that. And this is the time when, if you look at what's happening, I mean, regulation, the building process, things moving forward, this is the time where, unfortunately, and I'll just say it, this is where the money's made when people don't invest. And dollar cost average and just go from there and just look at the projects that actually do stuff, as opposed to just, what was that thing you said about people we're just going to burn some tokens and that's utility. That's not utility. That's called this, I won't even get into it, but yeah. So that's it's not really a question. It's just a statement. And it was interesting to hear Simon say the death threat part about those types of things, and it makes more sense now.
Well, that's why I always love having, companies and leaders like Simon or Steve at Voyager or the Faisal brothers over at Swissborg and other companies very similar, is because it's during these times, as Rob said, where it's all about deep value beliefs and following. And so StormX is, they've been here a while, and a lot of people have not realized that. So, I'm just gonna do this, Simon. If I can maybe possibly, get a jersey or sit at a game with you, that would be great. And if that happens, I will bring you into the pits. I will talk to Landon at tomorrow's race and see if maybe you can hop in the car. All right, but we'll discuss. we'll discuss some give and take.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Excited to watch a game with you guys.
What's that?
Excited to watch a game with you guys for sure.
Oh, 100%. Are you kidding me? Oh, that would be great. We've taken up almost an hour now. Simon, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. It was great, seeing you and hanging out with you in Miami. You're always really generous with your time and your views. So thank you very much. Thank you, Pat Ackerman. Thank you, Rob from Digital Asset News. This has been tremendous and really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thanks, Simon.